Today's Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021, and this is a video about a theme in the Gospels, in Matthew in particular. Well, that's the Gospel that I chose to read for this, but I know that, the Gospels, they repeat themselves, and so this same theme is going to appear in the other Gospels too, and there might be more instances in the other Gospels. I just read Matthew. I've been doing a series of videos kind of explaining different ways that you can read the Bible, and I think that this is a really great way to read the Bible, to go to the Gospels or pick one Gospel and read it having something in mind, thinking the whole time of, I'm looking for this type of thing. And in that way, you can explore different themes in the Bible or symbolism, and the Gospels are so short that it's very reasonable to sit down. Well, these days, way back in the day, you could easily read the Gospels in one day, but these days, maybe spread over 2 or 3 days, you can read through, say, Matthew or John, and have something in mind. Oh, I'm going to look for this. And so this is what I was looking for. You said it, not me, haha. There's just this theme in the Bible where nothing even needs to be said because the other person will come out and say it. And so let's get into it. I'll show you all the verses that I picked. And also, while I read through, I'm going to have another video just talking about other little tidbits that I picked up while I was reading Matthew. I just jot down the Bible verse and maybe 1 or 2 words describing what I was thinking about. And so I'll be making a video of that soon. So here we go. This was the first instance. Now, I don't think that this is more like foreshadowing to a big instance of this later in Matthew. Matthew chapter 2, verse 2, saying, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him." So the wise men were already declaring Jesus to be the King of the Jews. And it's not this exactly, but like I said, foreshadowing. Later it's going to happen where those who are persecuting Jesus call him the King of the Jews. And in that way, it's like a you said it, not me idea. So I read most of Matthew, and this theme wasn't coming up. It comes up a lot in the end, because the very people who are persecuting Jesus are the ones who are calling him the King of the Jews. And so that's why it comes up at the end of Matthew. So Matthew chapter 23, starting at verse 29, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because ye build the tombs of the prophets, and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous, and say, If we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Wherefore ye be witness unto yourselves, that ye are the children of them which killed the prophets." So this is an instance of this, you said it, not me. Because these people are saying, well, if we had been there in the days of our fathers, we wouldn't have partaken in killing of the prophets. That's what they're claiming. And Jesus says, well, aha, you just said that your fathers were the ones who killed the prophets. So that's our first instance of that, at least the first one that I saw in Matthew. "Fill ye up then the measure of your fathers, ye serpents, ye generation of vipers. How can ye escape the damnation of hell?" And that's a verse 33. It's just always interesting to me when verse 33 or certain numbers come up as a very striking passage. It probably should make it easier to memorize certain verses. Verse 33 of Matthew 23 is calling these people out, "Ye serpents, ye generation of vipers." Now, the next verse, Matthew chapter 26, verse 25. So here's another instance of, well, you said it, not me. "Then Judas, which betrayed him, answered and said, Master, is it I? He said unto him, Thou hast said." So this is, and I guess this is where I'll point out, I don't really fully understand. I don't think that there's one meaning to this idea of, well, you said it, not me. And I like to think about possibly deleted words. We know that the book 1984 talks about word deletion and how it seems like modern language has been very dumbed down and a lot of words have just been removed. And words, there's something really interesting about words. God created this place with his word. And so there's something to words existing in the past that just no longer exist. And maybe there was a word to describe this idea of people saying what it is that they're asking about. They're like admitting to. Anyway, I even have a hard time describing the phenomenon, and that's why I'm doing this video and looking up multiple instances. But I want to say that there's more than one way to interpret this thing. And so here's just, what is this? What this reminds me of, this particular verse reminds me of how in a whodunit, in a mystery, in a murder mystery, a lot of times the killer becomes heavily invested in the investigation themselves. You know that meme of how the guilty party often returns to the scene of the crime? That's what this reminds me of. And how it's like, well, the fact that Judas had to ask, oh, is it me who's the one that's going to betray you? Jesus is like, well, you said it. Matthew chapter 26, starting at verse 62. And the high priest arose and said unto him, Answerest thou nothing? What is it which these witness against thee? But Jesus held his peace. And the high priest answered and said unto him, I adjure thee by the living God, that thou tell us whether thou be the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus saith unto him, Thou hast said. Nevertheless I say unto you, hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power, and coming in the clouds of heaven. Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, He hath spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witness? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? They answered and said, He is guilty of death. So here's just an instance where the high priest accused Jesus. Well, didn't accuse him. He asked Jesus, tell us whether you're Christ or not. And it's a very interesting thing. Would they just go and ask this to anybody? The fact that they even have to ask him this question is very telling. That's what I think of in this instance of this. Well, you said it, not me. Well, you're the one who's asking me the question if I'm Christ or not. So this is just another instance of this. Well, you're the one bringing it up. You're the one asking me whether I'm Christ or not. So what does that say about this situation that you even need to ask it, right? Then the high priest rent his clothes, saying, He hath spoken blasphemy. What further need have we of witness? Behold, now ye have heard his blasphemy. What think ye? They answered and said, He is guilty of death. Then did they spit in his face, and buffeted him, and others smote him with the palms of their hand. I thought just the word palm here is interesting, because there's the palms of the hand. We know about, I think there's instances of Jesus coming into cities and people took palm leaves. So there's that connection there of being worshipped and praised with palm. And then here's an instance where they were slapping Jesus with the palm of their hands. And then this, mocking him, saying, Prophesy unto us, thou Christ. Who is he that smote thee? So they're calling him Christ. And this is another instance of, well, you said it, not me. You're literally calling Jesus the Christ. You're calling Jesus Christ all while you're smacking him. And of course, mocking, saying, because it makes sense the way that they're mocking him, because being Christ, he knows exactly who is slapping him. So that's why they're mocking him. Oh, tell us who's slapping you. Matthew chapter 27, verse 11. And Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Art thou the king of the Jews? And Jesus said unto him, Thou sayest. You don't just walk up to anybody and ask them if they're the king of the Jews. The mere fact that this person keeps having to ask him whether or not he's the king of the Jews is telling in and of itself. And I think that's just a big thing to take away from this. The fact that people had to continually ask Jesus if he was the king of the Jews or not is very telling. So Matthew chapter 27, verse 17. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto him, Whom will ye that I release unto you? Barabbas or Jesus, which is called Christ? So Jesus, there he's saying that Jesus is Christ. Christ is a title. For he knew that for envy they had delivered him. When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife sent unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man? For I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. What a really I I love this verse. It's very interesting, and every time you read the Gospels, you will find things and be like, why didn't I connect with this before when I read through it? Why didn't I think that this was such a cool detail? I always pick up on new things, and this one is just really, to me, a great detail. The fact that, yeah, so we know that Pontius Pilate or whatever, we know that he was a believer. He knew that Jesus had no sin, and that they were doing all these things. He basically was just doing his job, kind of thing, against his own will, basically. And kept, I mean, he even washed his hands clean of the situation, literally. Anyways, those are all things that I always knew about the Bible, but just this little tidbit of Pilate's wife came up to him and she was suffering dreams about it and told him to have nothing to do with the just man. So just a great detail. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The word destroy there, so strong. The governor answered and said unto them, Whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas. They got the numbers. Evil people really do have the numbers. It's a broad way to destruction and a straight and narrow path to salvation. They really do have the numbers. There were that many evil people around that they could use the power of the crowd to release Barabbas instead of the Christ, even though they knew, right? Pilate said, who do you want to release, Barabbas or the Christ? And so they made that choice. Pilate said unto them, What shall I do then with Jesus, which is called Christ? So again, he's telling them that Jesus is Christ. They all say unto him, Let him be crucified. So, and the governor said, Why? What evil hath he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but that rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it. Then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us and on our children. So this, reflecting perfectly what happened earlier of them saying, and look at the hypocrisy. They're hypocrites. These people are hypocrites. They just said, well, the blood of the prophets isn't on us, it's on our fathers. And then here they're saying, his blood is on us and on our children. Do you see the perfect parallel and the hypocrisy of what these people are doing? Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers. So like a king, he had a band of soldiers, a whole band of soldiers following Jesus. And they stripped him and put on him a scarlet robe. So in their minds, they're mocking him. But in my opinion, this is just another instance of the, well, you said it, not me. Well, you're the one who put a scarlet robe on him and gave him a whole band of soldiers, and you're the one who put a crown on his head. So continuing, and when they had plaited a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him. You're the one who bowed before him. And of course, in their minds, they were mocking. But it's this, well, you did it. And think of how in the media, the Orange 33 Club, they love to joke about the truth. And that's exactly what it just reminds me of that. These people were, in their minds, I guess, like mocking Jesus, but they were being more truthful in that. And I mean, not in a good way. These people are obviously evil and they're going to go to hell. But there's just that idea of they're proving the very thing that they're mocking. How do you think by bowing down to Jesus that somehow disproves that he's the Christ? You're proving it all the more that you're going through all this trouble. Anyways, and when they had plaited a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head and a reed on his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! So the very people who killed him were calling him the King of the Jews. And they spit upon him, and took the reed, and smote him on the head. And after that they had mocked him, they took the robe off from him, and put his own raiment on him, and led him away to crucify him. So jumping ahead a little bit, Matthew chapter 27, verse 37, and set up over his head his accusation written, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. So they are admitting it. Then were there two thieves crucified with him, one on the right hand and another on the left. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, Thou that destroyest the temple and buildest it in 3 days, save thyself. So they're admitting, another instance of, well, you said it. They're admitting that he is fulfilling this prophecy. But in their minds, they're mocking him. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. Likewise also the chief priests mocking him with the scribes and the elders said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now, if he will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God. Just look at the hypocrisy here. These people are mocking Jesus, and one of the ways that they're mocking him is by saying he trusted in God. These people are mocking Jesus for trusting in God. That's how sick and demented these people are. And just more, this was just full of this. They keep admitting what Jesus is. They keep being the ones to say that he's the King of Israel, right? Matthew chapter 27, verse 54. Now when the centurion and they that were with him watching Jesus saw the earthquake and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, Truly this was the Son of God. So more admissions. That's basically it. Those were the different verses that I could find. I said earlier where I don't fully understand this concept of, well, you said it, not me. I think that it has more than one implication. So in the end here, I'm just going to go over a few different implications. Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Jesus the Christ. One instance of this is, well, let other people be the one to say it. Jesus didn't need to go around yelling that he was the Christ. I don't see that when I go and I read the Bible. I don't see Jesus going around yelling to everybody, "Oh, hi, I'm here. I'm the Christ. I'm here, guys. Worship me." I didn't see that happen because it didn't happen. That's not how Jesus acted. And Jesus acted in this way. Matthew chapter 16, verse 20. Then charged he his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Jesus the Christ. He also healed many people and told them, don't tell anybody. Jesus would tell them, go to the temple, pay your respects, and don't tell anybody. So Jesus did the complete opposite of exclaiming who he is all the time. He let other people say it for him. And I think that's just a big takeaway of let your actions speak for themselves. You don't need to say getting meta all the time and talking about doing actions. This is what, have you ever just woken up and realized that so much stuff is just meta? Too much stuff is meta, where people are talking about the Bible instead of making videos about the Bible. How many Bible videos are there out there where people are just talking about themselves the whole time and not showing scripture? And we should be showing scripture and doing things, not talking about talking. And definitely not talking about ourselves, boasting ourselves up, and just do it. Just go do God's will and stop talking about it. And definitely don't talk about yourself and amp yourself up. And anyways, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but it is something whenever I feel myself like getting too meta, thinking too much about talking rather than, you need to just go do works and just do it and let the other people talk. Mark chapter 7, verse 36. So I didn't read Mark, but this just came up when I was looking for related verses. And he charged them that they should tell no man, but the more he charged them, so much the more a great deal they published it. So this was after he had healed people. Very interesting, these verses too. 33, and he took him aside from the multitude and put his fingers into his ears, and he spit and touched his tongue. And looking up to heaven, he sighed and saith unto him, Ephphatha, that is, be opened. And straightway his ears were opened, and the string of his tongue was loosed, and he spake plain. So that was right before Jesus said, don't tell anybody that I healed you. And Proverbs that goes exactly along the lines of this. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 2. Let another man praise thee, and not thine own mouth. A stranger, and not thine own lips. You shouldn't have to boast about yourself. And I'll just say one thing about Paul here. Right? Paul had to basically call himself an apostle. That should tell you something. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 27. I think that this just has one aspect of it. So we saw that most of the verses were at the end of Matthew, and most of the verses were people who were accusing Jesus were the ones who kept calling him King of the Jews. And in that way, I thought of just this idea, because this is a big theme in the Bible of evil undoing itself. Jesus didn't need to come to earth and talk constantly about how, here I am, I'm the Messiah. Jesus came, he talked about the kingdom of heaven, he preached, he healed people. He didn't need to boast himself up. Him doing the will of God was enough to get everybody talking about him. And the very people who, it kind of reminds me of, you know how YouTube shills, it's what I'm familiar with. You know how a lot of times shills will shoot themselves in the foot by creating a big scene about something? You can leave a truth comment and the shills end up shooting themselves in the foot by freaking out instead of by ignoring it. And I just think it's kind of this idea. Jesus knew that the evil people would make him even more famous by, he didn't have to do anything. Jesus just had to go be righteous and do God's will, and he knew that the evil people would do all the publishing for him. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. It's just make your own light shine brightly and other people will see your good works. You don't have to go around this just reminds me of like advertising. Oh, Jesus Christ Superstar, Streisand effect. So I just wanted to say this, just one thing that I think of. Jesus Christ is always the one who's being mocked in the media. So this goes along with that. Well, you said it, not me. The fact that atheists and people who claim to hate religion and the media, the fact that they're always attacking Jesus, that's very telling. And I think it just goes along with this theme of, well, the fact that they're blaspheming Jesus all the time, that actually gives more evidence that Jesus is true. Jesus is the truth. If Jesus wasn't the truth, they wouldn't invest all of this effort into mocking. How often do you see people mocking Buddha on TV or making blasphemous films about Buddha Superstar? You don't see it, and there's a reason for that. And this is just the Streisand effect. The fact that sometimes not talking about something, telling people to not talk about something can sometimes have the opposite effect and make it blow up. Makes me think of advertising and how phony, this is like the opposite. So evil people, the people who do basically the opposite of what Jesus taught us, I think of advertising, fluffing up yourself instead of making a good product. Just think of how many things there are out there today exactly like this. Instead of creating a good product and letting the product speak for itself and letting people talk about the product and figure it out that way, companies today spend most of their money goes into advertising, which is the complete opposite of make your product good. People will come to it and buy it because it is a good product. Advertising is the complete opposite. We have this piece of crap and we need to sell it. Let's advertise, get a bunch of advertising going. And it reminds me of all the YouTubers, like, comment, subscribe all the time. There's just very little more depressing to me in this world than you're going through YouTube and you can click on someone's page and you're like, wow, I'm surprised you actually have videos. And then you look at their videos and their videos have like 20 hits and their videos, they look like they're trying to be like the big streamers. They talk about like, comment, subscribe every 5 seconds. They have fancy equipment, fancy microphones, fancy backgrounds. They use a green screen. They have high production values, but they have like 30 people watching their comments. I even see these channels sometimes, they're like doing giveaways. They're totally just copying what the big channels do. This is how these Orange 33 Clubbers work, though. They just copy what the higher people do, and they think that they'll get famous because they do hand signs. Anyways, I just think of this as being the complete opposite of be good, do God's will, do your best to do God's will, and people will talk about you on their own. You don't have to self-advertise. You don't have to tell people to like, comment, subscribe to your channel. Just make videos. Make good videos and people will come. And you don't have to pay for advertising, pay for bot comments. Just look how fake this world is, full of those phonies that they're doing the complete wrong thing. Jesus tells us the right thing to do, and that's you shouldn't be self-advertising yourself. Just let your actions speak for themselves, and other people will do the talking. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. God bless everyone.